Hey everybody, how's it going? I'm gonna be working on these inks tonight. I'll start. So I was just winging it and just going for the inks like from my loose sketch here, but I'm gonna actually think through it a little bit and do like another rough sketch pass here just to get some idea of where I'm headed. So as always, if you have any questions, comments, anything at all, feel free to drop it in the chat and I will check it out and answer as I go.
The last Metroid is in captivity,
Yeah, Happy New Year, everybody.
is at peace.
Oh, thanks, Wolfie. Yeah, I had fun making that animation. That was so long ago. I had no idea what I was doing. It's really kind of weird. Like I had just over the course of like a couple days, I had all these strange things happen where like I got a message from an artist that I like asking me if I was ever going to do animations again, and then my kids were asking to like watch my old animations, and it was just like a few things in a row where I was like, hey, that's kind of funny. Like out of the blue, my children and random people on the internet are asking me what I'm doing with those. Let me tell you something. Those are so hard to do. And I'm the kind of person that will like just start on that sort of thing and then not stop till it's done. So I get a little nuts. I'm doing this pass on the armors so that I don't overdo it once I get to it with the tighter inking brush. So it's nice to have a sketch down so that I don't just start noodling detail forever, which I'm like to do sometimes. So I got to make sure that I stay a little bit focused, contained. It's a little bit Guyvery. Absolutely. Everything I do is a little bit Guyvery. That's like one of my biggest influences from my childhood. It touches everything. Time to make the Steve animated series. Yeah. Yeah, well, Dan and I we do all the voices. And we've been doing that forever. Like that's our whole process. We just didn't have enough ability to do both of us on the second audiobook because of me not being in Rhode Island where he was at. So I would love to do that with him, just like do some voice work again. It was very enjoyable. Think how fast you'll go with the new style. Yeah, I mean, more or less that comes down to just having the kind of ability to thumbnail out pretty quickly and get like all the ideas down. But like in terms of the actual like knock it out sort of thing, I would still use some of the older approaches to do it. Yeah. Yeah, the shitty thing was is that on the audiobooks, like we both did the first one, except we didn't have a professional recording studio. So Dan and I were like recording them under just heaps of blankets, and it was the sweatiest endeavor. It was brutal to try and do our own like at-home soundproofing. That was a crazy process. I really didn't like doing that. Those books are too long for that. How much would you ask to animate a 1 hour 30 movie like Fire and Ice? I have no idea. I wouldn't even know where to begin with that. You wouldn't want me heading an animated project. My whole regiment would be like everybody has to do it by hand. I don't care if there's easy ways of doing it that speed up the process. All of the by handness needs to be in there, and I don't care if it's shittier. It's gonna look better because it's gonna look like it was done by hand. And I'd want it to feel like I was even watching like Evangelion uh, today. I left it on while I was working, just because it matched kind of the vibe of the art I was doing. So I left on the the whole series. I'm pretty much done with it, but just the hue shifts and the colors and the way the animation kind of isn't perfectly still. Like the frames aren't perfect. There's just so much texture to it all. Like the glow of the characters. And then you watch shows that are like overly digital. Even if it's all hand done, it just feels like it's static, like it's just kind of sitting there. Where even the still shots of that old stuff, you can feel like the light having like a varying degree of brightness while they were like shooting the actual still. It's so much better. And I think everybody would hate me. I'd be so insane. I'm like obsessive about that sort of thing. Like I've said it a million times, but the context for being crazy is that I wrote with Dan and drew a 430 page book in 6 months. Like, genuinely have an issue with that sort of stuff where, like, I have to be pretty careful about what I take on, or else I will just become submerged in it, and then I will work constantly until the thing is done. So the one plus side is if I was doing that kind of project, I wouldn't be doing, and I wouldn't be asking anybody else to do something I wouldn't do. That'd be the one plus, is they wouldn't look at me as like killing them. I'd be like, no, we're all dying. We're all gonna die. Can't be more hated than Hayao Miyazaki. I think I would be, not like I'd produce the same quality content, but like I would be very similar to that. I've talked to my wife, Kim, is in the chat. I've talked to her about this of like I don't think it would be very fair of me to like bring people on to projects unless they were super into like crunch. Like I work that way, and I have a feeling of like as soon as you start something, the energy that you have for the thing is like a candle burning down, and you have to strike while the iron's hot, maintain that energy and rip through it so that it all feels cohesive and good. And that's just how I've always done stuff. So I know it would be terrible for anybody else. So I wouldn't ask anybody to do that. So I just do things by myself a lot. And the only reason it's not a problem doing that with like my buddy Dan is because Dan is broken in a way where he doesn't want to let anybody down. So he'll also work like that in order to not let himself down or me down. We have very similar personalities in that way. All that to say, I would like to do a crazy project, but you got to put me back into the 90s and the 80s when it was okay to do those things and you didn't get in trouble. Except for we have the same work ethic, but we work better separate. No, I think we work really good together, Kim and I. We are very at the same level. But that's why it's not weird when we're that way with each other. But other people, I wouldn't expect to do that. I would never put like our standard on anybody else. It feels cruel. Like I've talked to enough people about crunch stuff where I've realized that I just have a completely different outlook than most people. And I just gotta go, all right, that's just me. It's fine. What are your thoughts about having a life plan like Yuri Nornstein and his wife, the wife's the overcoat animation? A life plan? I don't really know what that is exactly. I don't know the reference. If it's like a long form project that you do over like a crazy amount of time, then I would say that I'm not. There's like in the same way I don't want a tattoo. There's nothing I think that I would want to do for a long period of time over the course of years, if that's what you're talking about. Man, it is so hard to beat Clip Studios brushes. These are so nice. You just fly through shit. It's so crazy. How nice are these lines? Photoshop could only dream. You were just live streaming Samus as well. Yeah, I mean the design is super iconic. It's like it's. I mean, if you go by the original art, you can kind of see where it's coming from. You know, it's got that T visor Boba Fett thing going on, but it's more colorful for like games. And yeah, I kind of was thinking of doing like a Justin Bailey Samus. I was thinking about doing one of those. If you're not familiar, that's like the code in the original Metroid. That was like my dad told me that when I was little, and then I put it in, and I was like, "Holy shit! You can be Samus outside of her costume," and it's her with like pale skin and green hair. Do you have any sentiment to the fusion design? Uh, Not really. I don't care too much for that one. I guess I like the big bulky robotic looking designs more than the sleek stuff. I'm more of a maximalist when it comes to design in like sci-fi than a minimalist. I'm kind of tired of the minimalist look in sci-fi where everything's like super sleek and flowing lines and that sort of thing where it's like overly modern. I'm not crazy about that. I like more like junkyard sci-fi. Have I tried any of the newer Metroids? Yeah, for sure. I was playing Prime 4. It's fine. It's not that great, especially the open world part stinks. And then I like um, the original Prime, and then Metroid Dread. I like. Those are really good. So the key with this one is that I'm going to ink it all out, and then I'm going to do like a watercolor pass on top at the end, and that'll look cool. I already did like a rough of that. You can see that here, and then I'll add like texture to it and things. But yeah, it's cool. This sort of look is what I'm after. Doing like an old Nintendo Power type of aesthetic. Feels like old Terada Link's Awakening. Yeah, I mean that's sort of my favorite stuff. So if I can get to my own version of that type of work, then that would be cool. I like kind of just shitty but quality old school inking look. Like yeah. I want it to feel like somebody actually drew it. So I'm trying to lean away from something that looks overly digital with these and leaning into that like old magazine look. My idea of shitty. What's my idea of shitty? Like ratty inking, like just something that's like rough looking and not like hyper specific lines and overly clean inks. I feel like inks can sometimes veer into like perfection to me versus like let's say you look at like an old manga of I don't know, like any old manga where there's like just lines around and things like old Guyver and whatnot. Like I like when it's not trying to just be dead on accurate or hyper real, where it's just like serviceably good, but the bones of it are very strong, if that makes any sense. I'm saying shitty because for me, like I could be very detail oriented and make it like overly clean. It's sort of that thing everybody says of like, when do you know something's finished? And I think younger me would have spent too much time on each thing. And therefore, I would kind of suffocate the life out of it by doing that. But with more experience, and honestly being able to get more across in less time, I can kind of go through it a little quicker and leave a lot of the rough edges behind where it feels more organic, if that makes sense. Because I think when you're young and you do art, you can, if you're like me and you want to show like a certain level of skill, you can tend to focus on being overly perfect in an academic sense, which can sterilize your work. It's kind of the idea of like making art for other artists versus for, you know, whoever you were when you wanted to get into it. I've also been doing so much Metroid stuff at home between painting my kid's helmet and then the new story thread we're doing for bedtime stories, because I make stories up like on the spot for the kids, and I've had to do like huge Samus storylines, so we've been doing that. Her encounters in derelict ships and spaceship graveyards and stuff. So I've had a bunch of Samus on the mind. I can tell you something though. Coming up with stories, just you know, given the prompt, like go now, make a Samus story. And having done like made up stories, maybe like, I don't know, three times a week at least for like a couple years now, you become very proficient at telling stories. It's so much practice. It's been very good for me. Like I have complete confidence that I could just wing stories for hours now, which is going to lend itself to playing D&D with them and all, which is nice. Yeah, I hope Nintendo sends me a bedtime cease and desist. Let me find something. Oh man, that new thing that happened where YouTube's making you disable ad blocker. Even, I hate it. Okay. Now I just have to make some of the details match this stuff up top, where I was like doing too much detail. Oh, I did get your email about Meat Canyon. Sorry, all this holiday stuff and coming back to work. I'm just in the midst of like a billion deadlines. I will get back to you. I promise. I'm about as crushed as I could possibly be at this very moment. Did I see Expedition 33 getting all the awards? I did. I was kind of in the camp of like a few other people where I felt like I really love Expedition 33, but that sweep was so crazy, and there were so many other good games. I felt like the other games should have got some kind of recognition. This is not like, there wasn't exceptional work on some of those other ones. But also, well deserved for Expedition 33. They lost all their awards due to AI use. Honestly, like, I bet so many of those companies used AI. Like the companies that I work for use AI. Like the big AAA studios. Like I'm excited for it to stop being so like new and exciting and flashy, and for all the like older devs and whatnot who are like overusing it, because it is so ridiculous. It's such an egregious use of it where it's like they say like, we use it for dropping in as like an asset, but like or mood boards or whatever. And it's like, dude, the problem with all that shit is that any mood board, even if it's not AI, if you give it to artists and you give them like a super specific vision, you're not going to get new shit. You really don't want to color the blue sky phase of that initial development of the style and just the overall look of characters and whatnot, because as soon as you add that in, you're kind of poisoning the vision a bit. And once you see like a very specific idea of what they already know they want, it's very hard to move the needle in a different direction. Do you think it will just breed laziness and kill some creativity among artists who do that? Uh, yeah, I mean, obviously. I feel like that's absolutely what happens. I honestly feel like, forget even AI. Anytime you introduce anything, like this probably happens with me just having access to what I have access to, you're going to start to create the same sort of shit that everybody else is creating. Like, you don't even need AI to do that. You can just be an artist who looks at ArtStation too much. Like, and then you start to make the same shit that everybody else makes. Like, you got to be pretty careful of what you look at if you're an artist and like what you actually consume. Like, you got to go out of your way to seek out things that are off the beaten path so that you don't end up falling into this thing where it's almost like everybody has the same shared vision of what concept art is, or art in general in games. It's like you got to be pretty careful with that. It ends up all looking pretty samey. Add AI to that, it just gets worse. It's just way more homogenized. So, yes, it's going to make people lazier for sure. It already has. Anything, I always feel like this is pretty counterintuitive because it doesn't seem like this should be the case, but I feel like it's the case in almost all situations. It's like if the theory of AI were correct in terms of accessibility and now everybody can do this, blah, 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 right? Like that's the idea, is that like now they've democratized creativity and that's what they'll say. But if following that same logic, everybody has a phone in their pocket. And that phone has a better camera than anybody really had access to in like the 70s and 80s and 90s, right? Like just in terms of quality and ease. So shouldn't there be like a bunch of Steven Spielbergs and like amazing filmmakers coming out of the woodwork with these like incredible concept films and whatever? It's like, no, there really isn't this like huge thriving thing going on. I honestly believe that you get people like that from a lack of, you know? It's like, yes, when the internet was like first this broad reaching new thing that people experienced for the first time, you had people that had lived without it who longed for something like that. They'll be the ones to make use of it and be like, wow, this new technology, and learn a bunch of new things and become smarter for having had it. And I feel like as people just grow up with a thing and it's just there, it's sort of the same idea of like immigrants coming to America and taking advantage of the system here and starting a business and just like being way more involved and like really using the structure here because they didn't have it. It's like the same sort of idea. It's like when you don't have the thing and then you do have it after you've had so much time wondering and hoping and planning for what you would do if you did have it and having like all these big dreams and whatever. It's like then when you finally do get the thing, it's like you've been thinking about how you would do this, reading about your craft, studying, trying to do it with nothing. And then when you finally do have the tool, it's like you're off and running. But to just be handed it, I think it just kind of cheapens the whole experience. Where now it's like, yeah, I could do this whenever, I guess. I just have it in my pocket. Like it's not special. I honestly think things need to be a little difficult and out of reach to make it something that's like worth striving for. I don't know. Because in that same like immigrant mentality thing, it's like give any one of those people who creates like a business here and does well after coming from someplace really hard. It's like within a couple generations, the kids aren't that, you know, the kids aren't like, oh my God, I know, I'm so hyper aware of all this shit and I'm going to make the best of it. It's like anything that you become used to just becomes this, it's less important. It's less special. You don't take advantage of it. It's just always there. But anyway, that's all AI is to me. It's just going to make it like, yeah, you could do anything you want, but because you can do anything you want, you're not going to do anything. Like, you need it to be limiting for you to come up with good ideas. how do you plan to handle that with the kids? Maybe have them tell you what they want, but they have to figure out how to get it. Um, it's just not handing them stuff. I mean, honestly, I think that that's the general approach: is have them do difficult things, and then like I'm pretty crazy. Like we do. I mean, I don't know how crazy this is. How I don't know what your family dynamic is. I feel like other people in my neighborhood look at me funny, but I'll like wake the kids up in the morning and we go for like a run in the cold, and we do like push-ups and all sorts of stuff like on the sidewalk, and we'll run this hill and on the street like multiple times. It's like, and I just tell them nothing but like Rocky Balboa stuff. I just say like, you know, who you are when you're at the end of your rope is that's who you really are. And I'm like, and we gotta constantly push past it. And they get all hyped up, and we go super hard at the end of every one of those runs and things. And then they do jujitsu, and then I'm just trying to make sure that like, given how easy their life could be, because our situation's nice, it's like I want it to be difficult. I don't want them to be soft kids who feel like everything's just handed to them. They gotta work super hard, and the key there, I think, is to do it with them, so that they don't feel like you're punishing them. So like I'm doing everything with them, and if Kim's out with them, she does the same thing. And just keep in mind they're like 5 and 6, so it's a lot for them. But that's everything. That's like, you know, if they misbehave or do something like break something at somebody's house, like we go and we do that. And we go and we run, and like halfway through the run we stop and talk it through and go like, why are we doing this? You know, like what's this about? Like why are we running right now? And then they have to talk through like what happened, what being kind means, what does it mean to be gracious and a good house guest, and how do we get invited back places, and like all this stuff. So like it's a lot of that, being like accountable for things and having a really strong work ethic. Just putting all that in them so that in comparison, other stuff and other people will take it pretty easy on them. But I mean, I'm positive that my neighbors who see us running up and down the hill at like 7 in the morning in the cold are like, what the fuck's going on? You picture me living in South Park? Yeah, essentially. No, we live in a very, very nice, cool neighborhood in Colorado. I really like it. I like all our neighbors. I like all the people we know. It's very nice. It's very wholesome. Thanks, Phantom Corpse. Alright, I'm gonna get off here in about 8 minutes. I got a hard hard end so I can get straight back into deadlines. I am pretty happy with how this is coming out. This feels good. Sorry I'm so zoomed out. It's just easier to see the whole thing this way. It's pretty tiny on my screen. Like, even though my monitor's pretty big, my actual working area on these is pretty small. before you go, I just want to say it's my first time joining you live. Been a fan since you put me on Laserhawk with Skull and Shark. Hey. Well, thanks for coming. What's my favorite whiskey? I'm a big Scotch dude. My favorite Scotch is Lagavulin. By a pretty decent margin. That's like my number one. I just treat myself to a bottle of Lagavulin, and then I got to be careful because then I'll just drink it so fast. I just have to be like, you can't have that too much. You just can't. Only for special occasions. So I'll have like a string of projects that I finish like back to back, and I'm like, Lagavulin tonight, and then the next day another project gets done, Lagavulin tonight too. And then you just hope for the next one to get done more. Yeah, Lagavulin is absolutely my favorite. And I can do like Lafroig if I'm like having a just want scotch but feel guilty about drinking more Lagavulin. I'll do that. That's my go-to. Just regular scotch. Where I don't feel like I'm hurting myself by drinking too much. You just earn physical affection points with your girlfriend that you can save up and redeem. That's good too. Be careful with vibrating tools. Yeah. I don't think I got anything to worry about over here. Okay. Managed to get a decent amount done. I'm more just trying to get this done so I can move to the watercolor stage. Because that's going to look so cool when I can do the whole thing like that. It's all just a race just to get to here. Gotta get here. Gotta get back. So close. Do you think I should be worried about how fast I can draw? I feel pressured to draw entire finished pieces in the span of a day or two. No. I mean, you get faster as you go. If you do it a lot and I mean, honestly, if you're under tight deadlines, that's actually nice because you get faster out of necessity. But otherwise, if you just do it a lot, eventually you get quicker. That's how it works with me. At the beginning of my whole like heavy into drawing phase, I was not drawing very quickly. And especially like, there was no quick and quality. That didn't exist. So I did it for a couple years and then it started to really kick up. Everything's, long game with art. It's like skills take a while to develop. Nothing happens overnight. You just let it grow. Finally. Then all that's left is little details. I can give you this little bit of advice with drawing. For me, it always feels like whenever I'm drawing very quickly, that's when it feels like it's taking forever. But that's just because I'm like so focused. So some of those times I'll like look at the clock and like, God, this is taking me forever. And I'm like, oh, only an hour has gone by? Oh. I'm just so focused that I'm like, I am flying through this, but it's like I'm using every second. So it just feels like I'm doing a lot. So it feels like it's taking a long time. But the reality is it's pretty slow. I mean, not slow. I'm doing it pretty quickly, but it's feeling like it's taking a really long time, so it feels slow. That's like my on the right track feeling when I can feel like it's chugging and then I look at the clock and I go, oh shit, never mind. Do I even use refs at this point? I mean, not for something like this. I mean, most of the things I do are from imagination. And then I'll look at like structure and things for reference. And if somebody needs like a really realistic face, you know, maybe I'll look at somebody in a similar lighting scenario. I tend to do most things from imagination though. Especially if you like look through my like Diablo work, like almost all of that's just imagination. Okay, I said I was gonna go about 6 minutes ago, but I needed to finish this because I was just right there, right at the finish line. I'm so hot right now. I turned off my fan because I didn't want the mic picking it up. Now I'm all sweaty. Alright, next step will be all of the rocks on the bottom in the watercolor fill for the back. I mean, for the character. Oh man. I'm very excited about that. This is gonna be shitty. Sometimes the selection tool and clip isn't my favorite. That looks okay. Like, invert. Let's just get a feel for it before we go. Let's just choose a red. Underneath. Let's do it underneath this one, because we already did that one. So I'm purposefully leaving like some parts kind of translucent because I like the texture variety there. It feels like real paper wash. Cool. And then all I do is make a layer on top of this that's clipped, and then just fill in the colors. It's gonna be so nice. Look at that. And do the cloak and do everything else. Yeah. Okay, cool. All right. Thanks for hanging out, everybody. I appreciate you. I'll just zoom in on the inks for you so you can see them. See you all next time. Happy New Year. And bye-bye.